Well, let me tell y'all about the darndest thing that ever did happen to me. It was a regular old Tuesday when me and the boys were sitting round the fire, passing the jug and shooting the breeze, when all of a sudden the sky lights up like the 4th of July. We look up, and there it is, a flying saucer, plain as day, hovering over Ma's chicken coop. Now, I always thought if aliens came, they'd head for them big cities, but nope, in the middle of our neck of the woods. We all stared, slack-jawed, as this beam of light shoots out and surrounds us. I reckon we were too dumbfounded to run. Next thing we know, our heads start spinning faster than a pig on a merry-go-round. Suddenly, everything got real clear, like we'd been staring through muddy water our whole lives, and now it was crystal clear. Turns out, them aliens had zapped us with some kind of smart juice, thinking we was prime specimens for uplifting. Hoo boy, were they in for a surprise. We felt like geniuses, ready to take on the world, or at least ready to brew a batch of moonshine that'd knock the socks off anyone brave enough to try it. And that's how it all began, folks, with a bunch of us newfound geniuses looking to make our mark. So there we was, suddenly the smartest hillbillies this side of the Mississippi, scratching our heads and trying to figure out what to do with all them smarts. Clem, he got it in his head to build a rocket out of old tractor parts, figuring we'd go up and meet them aliens proper. And darned if it didn't work. Next thing you know, we're sitting on top of a flame-spitting contraption shooting towards the stars. Course, we crash-landed right back in the holler, but by then, word had spread. Folks from the city came running, thinking we was some kind of geniuses. They wanted to know how we'd figured it all out. Well, after that rocket stunt, we got to thinking, what else could we do with all this smarts? Jeb had the bright idea to improve our moonshine operation. He rigged up a contraption that could distill corn liquor faster than a jackrabbit on a date. But instead of corn, he used some kind of turbocharged formula he whipped up. The result? Well, let's just say folks started using it to fuel their cars. Now, we had everybody from the local sheriff to big city businessmen sniffing around, trying to figure out our secret. We told them it was all in the corn, but truth was, we had no clue what we was doing. Then came the day when Earl decided to enhance the local creek to make fishing easier. He poured in a concoction that made them fish grow 10 times their normal size. We was hauling in catfish as big as canoes. But then the dang critters started chasing us. Picture this, a bunch of grown men running through the woods, being chased by catfish the size of alligators, while the whole town looks on. Them fish flopping and flapping, snapping at our heels. It was like something out of a nightmare, I tell you. We finally managed to scramble up a tree, watching as them mutant fish thrashed around below. Now the sheriff, he'd had about enough of our shenanigans, so he comes up with this bright idea to round up the fish and open a theme park, calling it Fishzilla Land. And wouldn't you know it, folks came from miles around to see the spectacle. We became local heroes, the smartest dumb guys anyone had ever seen. So, after Fishzilla Land became the hit of the century, Earl got it in his head to try his hand at weather improvement. He built this giant contraption, something like a cross between a windmill and a bathtub. And before we knew it, he had a tornado on a leash, swinging it around like a lasso. Well, that got the government's attention real fast. Next thing we know, we've got the National Guard camped out in our backyard, telling us to knock it off before we turn the whole state into a blender. As for the aliens, they started having second thoughts. They'd been watching us from their shiny spaceship, scratching their big old heads with their spindly fingers. Seemed like their uplifting project was backfiring faster than Uncle Jed's jalopy. They was just about ready to throw in the towel when old Earl had one more harebrained idea. So, Earl had built this contraption, a mix of pipes, wires, and glowing doohickeys, humming and spinning without rhyme or reason. Not even Earl could explain what it was supposed to do. The aliens, curious as cats, beamed him and his gizmo right up to their ship to figure out what in tarnation he'd come up with. Once aboard, them aliens ran all sorts of tests, buzzing and beeping around Earl's device, but it was all gibberish to them. Frustrated, they brought Earl before their high council to judge whether humanity was worthy of their uplifting or not. Things weren't looking good. They were fixing to write us off as a lost cause. But then, there's Earl standing before them alien judges, looking more confused than a cow on AstroTurf, when all of a sudden, alarms start blaring louder than Ma's cooking timer. Red lights flash, and the alien folks start scurrying around like ants at a picnic, mumbling about the scourge arriving. Them judges, they turn to Earl and say, "Even though y'all prove to be more trouble than a tornado in a trailer park, it seems something worse is coming, the scourge. We're fixing to quarantine Earth, but it won't matter none, since no species has survived the scourge." That's when Earl, eyes lighting up, remembers his doohickey. He figures, why not give it a whirl? He flips a switch, and that contraption starts glowing, shooting out beams that wrap around the scourge, and something mighty strange starts happening. Turns out Earl's doohickey was a universal translator. As them beams circled the scourge, Earl starts hearing a voice, clear as a bell, saying, "I mean no harm, I'm just lonely." Turns out the scourge ain't a destroyer, but a love-sick wanderer, drifting through the cosmos, searching for a mate. It was in the wrong universe, poor thing. With a bashful apology, the scourge up and leaves, disappearing into the stars. The aliens stand there, flabbergasted, realizing them rednecks from Earth just saved the whole dang universe with a contraption made out of spare parts and a little bit of luck. Who'd have thunk it? Well, folks, that's the tale of how Earl and a bunch of rednecks saved the universe. Last I heard, Earl was working on some wild new project. Something he calls a Dyson Cube or something. Guess he's got his sights set on harnessing the power of a whole dang star. But that's a story for another day. Y'all take care now. You hear?
Thank you for watching. Like, share and subscribe for more original content. New chapters and standalone stories uploaded weekly.